the beautiful light beam, as you may have heard from the introduction, the lovely Inaya is here with me, and we're going to have a wonderful chat, no doubt, because her energy is phenomenal and beautiful and warming. And I am so looking forward to this conversation with you, Inaya. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Kasia. Thank you so much.
Now
I
we
love to be here.
and we have connected from across two parts of the world because you are on the other side of the world to me. I am down here in Australia. So you had to accommodate, our time difference. So I'm so grateful that you could do that. And again, thank you for being here. And maybe we can start with you filling us in to your story. I've given you a little introduction, but I would love for you to now fill in the gaps for my listeners and tell us more about your journey and who you are and how you became this phenomenal, amazing, divine human.
Hmm. Thank you. You want me to start?
Your turn to go. I'm loving the background sound.
Thank you. Okay, I'm Inaya Oakroot, and I live in Sweden, in a rural island outside Sweden, where I have my retreats and sit here working over the net most of the time. My life started as when I was 5. I knew I was an artist because, well, an episode made my father tell that I will never be an artist, and that made my heart taken away from me, and I understood without art I will not exist. So after that I was so free going in school and without needing any graduates or anything, but I follow up until I was 19. But it was a way of good start. But also, of course, having the feeling of not being good enough, because it was included. But really knowing that I'm an artist. So it was my line from the age of 5. And then when I was 11, I started to learn to to play tennis. And first half year, it was like I didn't understand where to put my hands on the racket in, like that. And after half a year, it comes like an eureka, and I understood it metaphysically, and then I was best in the club. So when I was 14, I got a tennis coach because I was headhunted by another coach to be his assistant. And from there, when I ended school, when I was 19, I already had my living from tennis and could do all the time that I've been in school to live with the art instead. And from that time, I understood that I cannot learn things in another way than in a metaphysic way. I need to get the metaphysic understanding of things. And before that, I'm lost. I'm totally lost. But my path has been so magic because of not following the rules, but creating my own life from my inner story. It made such a colorful life. And I traveled the world to understand who I am, to understand where I came from. And I traveled very much, but I didn't find it until long time later, because it was inside, of course. But I felt really like I didn't understand where I came from, my family, my city. I lived in Stockholm. The culture, it wasn't, the one that was telling me the life from within. It was another life that I was taught by my higher self, that I didn't know that it was the one teaching my life. And my travel friend, when we were 24, we traveled a lot. And when she was 26, she turned into schizophrenic and hung herself. And there my life turned into totally blackness. I couldn't even see colors. Yeah, but that's now it's a history, and yeah, it was really starting from anew, totally starting from anew. And I was afraid of my own power, because at that time I made an exhibition playing with the borders of life, with existence, what's true and not. Because I always have worked with, the perception of life that is so put in boxes, in different cultures, different, but always in different boxes. And I was always like putting my frame to enlarge that area, and she needed that. She needed the boxes, and I didn't understand it. So anyway, I chosen a man that I couldn't destroy, because he was so destroyed already into all what you can say. And I moved to Argentina for 1 year with him, and I got pregnant. And well, to make a short story, after 2.5 years, I was able to run away from him. I tried so many ways, and to have hidden address for 10 years. So this is my path to healing, understand healing, because all was about creativity before that. So I moved to another town. I had to quit my name, everything, all my identity, and start anew from there. And yeah, since then I worked with art for a long time, but after a while I came to a state where I lived, I worked for a city planner, as a city planner, as an artist. And I saw that everything that was coming from the community and was really good for the city, it didn't matter to the planners, because they cared about their careers, about their hierarchy and everything. So then I understood that I had to start to work with the human beings in the corporate field. And because I used to work with people as a tennis coach, I had that with me, and as an artist to come beyond position and into engagement. So I started to work as a consultant, and I've done that for 15 years, and also developed my coaching in other areas. And after some years, I worked in a university to make, together with two others, the label and the content of the university to be entrepreneurial, and with innovation in any area of the educations. And well, then I had 4 years of having a refugee camp with like 130 people coming from different countries, and I was, the head of that refugee camp. And during that time, I started to come beyond reality, what was thought, and my way of transforming energy from other consciousness, like came through from that was so clear about what's beyond innovation and beyond entrepreneurship, and what is the creation. So I started to write books about the human potential and the healing possibilities. And from there, from 2012, I started to work as a healer with now I work most with sound healing and in the Akashic records, and with energy healing and with retreats. So it's a long story. I'm 62, Kasia.
Wow. First of all, you don't look 62. And I was wondering, when did you manage to do all that? And I am very fascinated about your work, especially my listeners will know the Akashic record part and the healer part. But before we go there,
Mm,
you mentioned something that, especially when you started playing tennis, that it became clear to you that the best way for you to understand things is through the metaphysical part of
yeah,
metaphysics. Could you explain to us perhaps what that looks like for you?
yeah. It's it's like the body understands it. Uh, uh, you know, if you look at something and get really engaged, it's like you can do it from your imagination and body, and it's just come through like a flow. And it's like, in the metaphysics, it's a combination of the of embodying and having the love for something and starting to later understand it. It doesn't come from the mind and then practice, 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 and then you embody it. It's come from the body, just feeling it, doing it, understanding it, and then you get a comprehension of the whole scenery, and it's like you understand more than you were taught, because it's more the total of everything in that subject.
Do you think that part of it is maybe like this innate remembrance, maybe something we have done in the past lifetimes, and the body is sort of, I don't know, programmed for the lack of a better word, or remembers that something similar was happening, or are used to do this? Do you think that could
Uh,
be?
well, for me, yeah, my subject is divine duality, and for me, I understand it more as, first of all, that when we do different things, they start to teach the other about the other. Do you understand? If I have two subjects, as if I worked as a tennis coach and an artist, when I was doing my art, I got in knowings from the art that I could apply in the tennis. And when I was playing tennis, I got a inspiration for my art. So it's happened in the liminal space. And of course, I think that we have it from earlier lifetimes, but also we have the genetic codes of all humanity. We have genetic codes in our DNA from our ancestors and to being a human being, and we have cosmic connections through our body and heart. So it's not only like a separate knowing from different lifetimes, but it's a knowing that I feel that is in the morphic field. You know, you
Mm.
you you have heard of the morphic field?
Um, I am familiar with the term, but I would love for you to explain what that means to
Yeah,
you.
it's Robert Sheldrake. He explored how he, in a rural island, they were teaching 100 monkeys to clean their potato before they were eating them, because it was more tasty and better in any way. And then they saw that monkeys in another part of the world started to do the same. So it was in the field of knowledge from that frequency of that the monkeys had, uh, and they start to do it. So I believe it's all that has been done. It's ours. It's not only what we as this fractal of a source have experienced.
That's really interesting because someone could be listening to us here and think, well, Inaya, I don't have anyone in my family who ever played tennis. So I don't know if I picked up a racket, whether I would have that same remembrance or my body, or, whether I would have this sort of connection to ancestors, because no one is in my family has ever played tennis. What would you say to
Yeah.
that? And you have beautifully guided us into this.
Yeah, yeah, ancestors for me, you know, we describe ancestor or uh, think of ancestors in different ways. For me, ancestors is all human beings that has been on Earth. You know, when I read in the Akashic records, it's all information stored from the beginning of humanity in the Akashic records. So it's not only my mother line and my father line, but actually we have the ancestral lineage where we start as human beings, you know, overall. And and our body, it's it's a production of our Earth, of our Gaia, of Gaia. It's not, you know, and our DNA make us look like we are doing from her material. So all what Gaia has experienced is in our bodies.
So we're not just limited to ancestors that are in our bloodline, like family related,
No.
but and
Mm.
through the experiment that you've described with the monkeys, that of course is evidential to how across the world, obviously no relation, no blood relation, the monkeys started doing the same thing without the teacher teaching them, right?
Yeah. So always when I, you know, as a coach, as a tennis coach, I was always just not telling them how to do it before. I just gave them the racket. They have their shoes on. We made some movements to make the body free, and I asked them to start to play, and they were, but I can't do it. But through seeing their way of moving, I could understand their way of coming into their way of playing tennis. Because we have so different metaphysics that we have, we have different gates that makes us individual, and they are open in different levels, and they are more determined in other levels. So we are, everyone is a fingerprint. So even though we are connected to all, it's not like we are, you know, the same. We are the same as source, but we are a fractal. I don't know if I complicated it now when I told you, but it's like, yeah, everyone has their way of metaphysically coming into a new knowledge.
So can we say everything and anything is available to us if we accept it or acknowledge it or see it within ourselves?
Well, first of all, this is a subject. First of all, as a higher, our self wanted to become a human body, we have an intention why we come to Earth. We have soul lessons, we have life lessons, we have inbuilt missions, and if we have to, you know, to make life a good life, we need to answer this call from within, and then we are led to what the way that we will come to our destiny, a goal, what's in our DNA, our longing, and everything. So it's about inner listening. It's not like I can be, because my mind is more associating instead of linear. So I could not be a lawyer, for instance, because that is not in my line of what I could be.
It's a fine dance, isn't it? And I asked you the question
Yeah,
because I was curious how you explain this part of co-creation, because part of us, um, we have the ego that goes, I want to be famous on Instagram, or I want to be a artist that sells and makes millions and millions, right? Or I
yeah,
want to be a superstar. But then, like you said, there is the mission, there's the life lessons, there is other elements that are at play where I I never say we create, we manifest. I like to call it co-creating, because it's like you have this, they put it out there, the universe meets you halfway. And if that's not meant to happen, and if it's not in line, like you said, for you, because it takes you off that mission that is so much more powerful and purposeful, you won't get that, but you will get something that you will make you feel like, wow, this is actually, I can't even believe I was there, right? That
Exactly. Really so. And yeah,
which
it's a
inspires this
wonderful
topic.
describe. And if you know, if it's coming from our ego that I want to be this famous, the ego has no power. Because the power is disconnected from our soul. If it's not the soul-led energy, and if it's soul-led energy, we will go there. We will come there.
That is beautiful. It has inspired my
Yeah.
next question. Um, how do we align ourselves then with what is? Because I try to explain it, but sometimes I feel, as I go through my own life, I had plans, and sometimes these plans don't work out. And I say, but I have made peace, like I'm okay with it. Like I can see why they didn't work out, but now they're showing me this. This is where I'm being guided, and this feels so good and so authentic. So I have made peace that I didn't get the thing that I wanted. But someone could understand this as, well, maybe you're giving up. Maybe you should fight harder, try harder, because maybe you're just quitting before, or you changed your mind. But it's so much more on a deeper level. I really have accepted, no, not even accepted, because it feels more deeply than that. It feels like, oh, I get it why I didn't get this. This is what I'm supposed to be, and I could have never conceived this, whatever it is. So I
All
would love
right.
for you to tell us, like, how do we align ourselves with this sort of frequency of accepting that sometimes maybe your ego takes you one way, but you're meant to be going this way.
Yeah. Well, it's acceptance comes when we are ready for it. When we don't accept, it's kind of some judgment or some emotional disconnection that makes us not accepting things as they are. Because when we see things as they are, we can shift. Not before we can accept things as they are, we know the opportunities and the potentials. And in the divine dualities, I see it. When I have a problem for that I want to go there, and I see, why don't I come there? I need to see, okay, what's the other opposite of that energy? So if it's like, I feel that I judge myself for not doing enough, that's the judgment of it that stands in the way. It's not the acceptance of the reality, it's some other layers. And if I can see, okay, I don't accept myself for not being good enough doing that field, and then I can have, in the other side, I can have trust in my knowing, and I can meet in the middle, and I will get the understanding. And in the understanding, I get the acceptance. Because all I must explain little divine duality, because we have used duality as two things that we have either or, good or bad. We have always distinguished, and it's the way that our brain does when it's not connected to our heart. But if we see two counterparts as two parts of the same in the opposite directions, and their attraction between each other, the most powerful is that light always wins. Because the one that we judge ourselves for, or striving hard, even though it's not meant to be. It's absent of light. And when light comes in, it turns light onto the absence of light. And in the middle where the attraction meets, we come to a point of silence and relaxation. And we start to breathe into the reality of all the angles of realities that exist between the two. And there is so much fascination about different way to perceive everything. And then we can do nothing but really accept it, because it's we come into the wonder of life, the wonder of existence.
It's amazing. And it gives you really truly inner peace, I think, that
Yeah,
letting go
yeah.
of having to be or having to do more or judging yourself for not being enough. Inaya, I often wonder, and I would love to know what you think. When someone feels all of a sudden like they lack clarity or direction, they feel purposeless. What do you think is happening for them in that moment? And what do you think is the most important thing for them to do in that moment? Yeah, let's go with maybe that question.
Yeah. Well, all our societies, anyway, of the Western world, we have been taught knowledge from outside. And when we have inner interest, it's like, oh, it's your ego, or it's not faithful to trust. So we have learned so much to just take in all the information, what is right and what is wrong and what shall we do. And it's really disconnected us from our inner knowing. So when we feel this lack of not knowing our willpower even, or what we want, or our purpose, it's because we have lost it in the way of accepting to be a product of the societies that we have had around us. So for me, as an artist and sound healer, it's so much going through the voice, going through the body, and going through the understanding of the yin-yang energy, the male-female and the child energy, and to start to reconnect to our senses, to our touch, to our hearing, to our all our senses. And there we start to have the inner knowing. But we have to retake those things that our society mostly have told that it's for children to do, things like painting, or for the skilled ones that are professional, to retake our birthright of being creators as we are as human beings.
Yeah, because we all are, whether we have been formally trained or not formally. And isn't it the hardest thing for those who have been formally trained to go back to paint in a childlike manner?
Yeah, because we judge, oh, this is not good enough, but it's not about that. To have the sense of just getting a color from a pencil, it's like, wow, it's a wonder. And just, to be in the wonder of creation and not in the eyes of the critic to look at it. It's the first path to come into the wonder of feeling how the tree is growing from that seed, to start to get the energy of the flowing energy around us that is always there, and make us alive. And it's so much to take back of our, to be a living being and not a monitor for the ideas of others.
So true. Inaya,
Yeah.
from your own journey and everything that you went through, because what I have learned through the Akashic Records is that when we go through something traumatic, powerful, something that could be painful, whether it's in childhood, adolescent, or as an adult, whether it's with a lover, parents, with a neighbor, when we go through this sort of turmoil, it makes us these survivors that then can hopefully transcend the pain enough to be able to connect to another soul who is going currently through that on a much deeper level. So I'm wondering your own journey, your own painful story. How would you say is that helping you now to be the healer, the Akashic record reader, the compassionate human that you are now?
Yeah, well, that's a big question. Uh, well, it takes time. We need to, after 10 years, I looked in the mirror and see, now I'm happy. Now I'm really happy. And I looked in the mirror, I say, okay, my eyes are still sad. There's still sadness there. So it takes time. The Akashic Records, it's actually a library of all what happened and will happen. And to clear in the Akashic Records, it's actually just to cut the cord between a person and that happening, to finalize it. It's like we heal ourselves. Always healing is like being finished with an energy. And the Akashic record, we can shortcut it, but we need from that new energy, because the body will not, and the heart will not remember that energy because it's cut. We are not a part of that energy cord any longer, but we need to reschedule our life, not to redo it. But for me, the most important, it's really about energy. When I was leaving my daughter's father, and there were lots of trials about who, if he would be able to be alone with my daughter, which would kill us, really, both of us. But all these trials and everything, that my only way that I came through it was, first of all, to disconnect from him, not going into any reaction, not going into anything that that I didn't like about that, but go in the line of a new direction of who I can be in this moment. It took time, and I renovated a house. It was really a house that was so down as I was, and just building it up, it repaired myself. I healed with sounds and minerals because I was so sensitive to energies. So I didn't go to anyone to speak about it. I worked through energies, and to really disconnect from any reactions, and just seeing the little more light today than yesterday. So it was so, it was so hard times. And but what made me come through it was really looking for the light all the time, looking for the light, and not being reactive, because it was so life-threatening. So I had no choice than to disconnect, because I felt when I connected to it how dangerous it was to just connect to that energy. So when
looking for the light, I love that.
yeah, and when we are in the deepest darkness, we know the light, we can see it. If there are lights everywhere, we don't know where to go. Isn't it?
Mm.
Uh,
There's a
I can
beautiful
take a,
saying that I love.
yeah,
We can't see the stars without the darkness of the night,
yeah,
right? You don't see them during
yeah.
the day. I love them.
It's so obviously obvious what is there. I can take a metaphor for that. I've been married for a long time now with my husband that I have, and when his mother was passing away, she was so afraid of death. So and when we came to the funeral, I was sitting there, and the priest was going in front when the bells was ringing, and she was still, she wasn't burned. She was, it was a
Coffin.
big coffin, yeah,
Yeah.
in coffin, and so. And then when he stand there, he was just going away and sat down in the bench on the side. And I felt, okay, what can I do now? It was a long time ago, 21 year ago. And I was sitting there and just felt, okay, I am with her. I am with his mother. And first, it was just a darkness that was so chaotic, a totally chaotic darkness. And I was just sitting with that chaotic darkness and didn't understand what more to do. So I was sitting there, and the chaos in the darkness, in the blackness, came less and less chaotic. And I just observed it. And then when it was totally uh, no no waves in it, I saw a little dot like from a nail, like little more grayish. So I just gone into that dot, into that nail dot, and just looked at it. What is this? Didn't go bigger when I looked at it, but I felt I could go into it. So I just go into this little tiny spot, and after a while, it's just open light, and there she was lying, like in the middle of the room. So she couldn't transform into the light from this lifetime into next because she was so afraid. And
Yeah.
yeah, so so
Fear is
it's
a
about
low
that.
vibration and they can't rise up if they're
Yeah.
scared, right?
So I think if we learn how to look for light in this life, that's we'll have such a easy path to our next level, next
Yes. And isn't that
existence.
what we're doing every day?
Yeah.
We're trying to find a way back to the
Mm.
light, whether it's from anger, from guilt, from fear, from
Yeah.
hurt, from people pleasing, from anything. We're trying to find a way back to the light. That's really what
And
we're doing.
And there is really to play with the opposites of attraction. It works so fantastic. So
Mm.
if you have a deep anger, first of all, just birth it out, make a sound to it, really burst it out. And when you feel it's just annoying and it's coming over and over again, and it's like it's belonged to you and not to the other energy that came to you, that is always you. But anyway, you can put the anger in the one side, and you can put forgiveness in the other side, or whatever you want, and let those attraction points meet each other, and you will start to understand your anger. You will start to get stories about what's beyond the anger. It's not like running away from an emotion. It's absolutely the opposite. It's to make them come into the surface and to be, embraced.
I have goosebumps. This is phenomenal. Thank you for sharing this. This is because often we're scared to go there, right? What else will come up to the surface? And we
Mm,
need to clear things. It's like I like
yeah.
this metaphor mm, of the hot air balloon. If you have the heavy sandbags, you're not gonna go anywhere, but you have to start cutting them off and letting go of them in order to rise up, right? So
Right.
I love
Mm.
that as much. Please tell me, because I'm fascinated about your journey with the Akashic records. Um, do you how did you find them? Are you using them every day for yourself or just for your clients? If you would like to share anything, I always love hearing.
Yeah. Well, first of all, soul realignment is a modality that I learned. You can Google on it. And with doing it, I just found the way that I already did, but it's a very easy module to make it. But of course, uh, you know, soul realignment is to work with the Akashic records, and that's how I do it. But when I do it, I need my psychic abilities to understand what's really beyond. So in the Akashic records, as I say, it's the library of all that have existed. And we can't cut it off if we don't get the metaphysic understanding of why it's there. So it's actually, it's just like everything in the 3D world, because the Akashic records, it's in the fifth and sixth dimension. But in this 3D world, it's exactly the same as below, as above, so below. So if I just go into it, I need to go into it with my heart mind, and to see it in a bigger spectrum, to understand what's beyond it. And there I can clean it and clear it in a more, more easy way than if I do it in this physicality. And I don't know what I can say if I'm there every day, because I always have been steered by my higher self, and my higher self is a lot above this sixth dimension now. So it's like part of my life, being in the realm of like from the first dimension to the ninth. It's my daily life to be not only in 3D, but being in my body, grounded, and have access just in my daily breath in all of these dimensions, if we call them dimensions. So I believe I work with them all the time, but not distinguishedly. I just do it with clients and for myself if I feel something comes up. That or energy medicine, the shamanic way.
Mm.
Yeah.
Because there's many Akashic record readers who believe you have to use a prayer. You go up into a library, they can describe the library. And I have to tell you, I had even a teacher who was like that. And at first I thought, I'm not getting this right because I don't see the library, and I had hesitations to use the prayer. But interestingly enough, 6 months before that, I had my own personal meditative experience where I saw things that that was before I even heard about the Akashic records. I had no idea. But when I described them to my husband, who does Kriya Yoga, he said, that sounds like you're going to the Akashic records. And
Mm.
yeah, and I had my first teacher, she said, it looks like you're going through the back door because it doesn't make sense, because you have to go through this prayer into the library. You have to see this,
Don't have.
right?
Yeah.
So, and I've never had the library experience. In fact, I'm like a deer caught in the headlights. If we ever go into the library or the book opens, I don't get anything. But my experience is more, mm, I have I have a prayer that I use sometimes for clients, because I feel that a prayer, we had technical difficulties just before we started, right? And if something like this happens, I find that the prayer kind of elevates my vibration and kind of centers me. So it raises that vibration. But generally, I have this impression like I am in those Akashic or guided, and it's hard to explain, but you've articulated it and made me feel not crazy for thinking that could we be
No, at
like
all.
connected.
And do you know what? One of my tools is the vertical breath. because the
Yeah.
vertical breath is a heart breath that will align us with our mind and our body, and within that also the two poles of inner earth and source creation. And when we are aligned with our mind, heart, and body, we are and grounded. We are grounded, and we are in the third, fourth, and fifth dimension. So when you are, as you say, your prayer, and when you come, to be heart centered, and you have aligned your energy system, you just have to ask. Then you just have to ask, because your question makes the answer. If you see the Akashic records, it's not like a book that is already there. It's lots of books. It's not like that. It's like infinity of energies. And when you put your question, it's all this potential, it's coming there to come to your answer. And there this history comes back, and you can read in the Akashic records. Do you understand?
I
It's like
love
being in
that.
the
That
it's
resonates with
like
me.
being in the computer, but you don't have to be aligned in the computer, because it's a man-made thing. But it's all there. But we have to put the question in the search motor, and then it comes as an answer.
Yes. This begs me to ask you a question. I have a million questions that I want to ask you, to be honest with you, and I'll keep it snap because I know you have to get on with your day. But my question is then, um, how can we explain to someone who's curious? Let's say they've gone and seen a psychic who pulls out tarot cards and tells them, you're going to meet the love of your life on the 5th of June 2024 at this bar. He's going to look this way, or you're going to have 3 children, right? How do we explain sort of those predictions versus the potentiality, the possibilities that we receive from the Akashic records? Or how would you explain this?
Yeah. First of all, the Akashic records is all about the history. You in the Akashic records, you can just see the line that has been, and the possibilities that will build up from history. Because the Akashic records is a library. It's not about the future. And so, and well, people who say this directly, exactly how they will be, they don't believe in the free will of every person. So
Mm.
I would never do that. I will just like showing the way to the potentials, and open their possibility to start to understand their inner knowing, and their inner desire, to come into that, and to make people being the ones powerful, creating their own lives. So for me to have a prediction of like that, it's why should we live if we didn't have a free will to take us another step? The only thing that makes us, being a bit predicted, is that we have our intention from our highest self, and the life lessons will come in different ways to put us into the line again. We will always be put into the line, but the phases of it can look very different. We will come into the line of our own inner energy, what we are drawn to, like a magnet. And even though we take a step beside, we will have other experiences, but we will always come back into the electricity that we have coded ourselves with. But it's not like it has to be 3 children, or it could be like that, because we maybe change another lifeline.
Yeah, yeah, I have
That's in
experienced that.
my way of seeing it
It
anyway.
it resonates with me a lot. Yes. I understand because I have had clients come to me who said, I was told by a psychic that I'm going to have 3 children. I had two and I don't want anymore. But now they feel guilty because there's that program prediction.
Mm.
But what I have learned from the Akashic Records is that soul, if you have a soul contract with that third soul that maybe the psychic saw, if you from your free will say, I don't want to birth another child, that soul will find a way to come into your life, so you can be the mentor, the custodian, the guide for it. Maybe it'll be to
Mm.
your sibling, maybe it'll be to your next door neighbor, right? If there's that.
Right.
But yeah, but it's just predictions make it show you this very short, this is how it is.
Yeah, and I think predictions is kind of dangerous because it's limiting our imagination of what we want to
Mm,
do.
mm,
Uh, so it's like, yeah, killing our the possibilities of breathing freely and discover what we want to discover.
I can't stop looking at the beautiful paintings
Mm.
behind you. I'm sorry, everyone listening, you might have to go to
No?
YouTube, but have you painted these faces that I can't work out whether they're lion, whether it's morphing into something?
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
behind you,
I
they're
did. Yeah,
beautiful.
thank you.
They're
I did it
so,
with fingers,
wow.
only finger. Yeah,
They're
yeah.
phenomenal. I really, if you're listening to this on a podcast, I encourage you to go to the YouTube channel because they're just, I can't stop looking at them. So I'm sorry if I'm like going that way, but they really
Mm.
draw me in and they just look like they're changing.
Yeah, a
They're
little bit
beautiful.
like icons, maybe.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because
Mm.
it's of spirit animals of, I
Mm.
love it. Inaya, is there anything that you wished I'd asked that I didn't ask?
Wow. Question. I think, life is so wide, so I can't say, but uh, we could talk forever, as you said. And no, I think if someone have a question that they want to ask, I offer a free discovery session. So please come and just ask your question that I didn't understand that I could answer before.
Yeah, and we'll put all
Yeah,
the links in the show notes so everyone
yeah.
can find you, Inaya. Um,
Mm.
to finish up this divine session that I had with you, because it feels so beautiful, a chat. But I'm being, mindful of your time. It's always hard because for me it's bedtime. But your day is like starting, like I mean, I think it's what, noon or something.
Yeah.
So yes, you need to get on with your day. But could you please leave my listeners with a gift?
Yeah. Well, anyone can just through you, Kasia, go into the free gift of having a free discovery session and also sound healing. When I work with sound healing, I don't only work with it's only when I'm in place, I work with my crystal bowls and gongs and drums and like that. But I work with my voice to heal different things in our body with undertones and overtones and intention, and it works so powerful. It's the most powerful way of using sound healing as I know it, and it's from Gita Ben David. She's a gorgeous lady if you want to learn more about vocal sound healing.
Fantastic. So beautiful.
Mm.
I will make sure to link everything up to you so my listeners can go and learn more about you and receive your beautiful gift of the discovery session or the healing, or if they wish to ask questions. It was such a pleasure to have you, Inaya. Thank you so much for making the time despite my technical difficulties.
Mm.
We made it work and I'm very grateful. Thank you.
Mm. Thank you so much, Kezia. Casper.
I
I
have
love
one
you.
of these.
Yeah.
I have one of these tricky names, and I am honestly, what's in the name, right? A rose by any other name would still smell divine. So it's. I am always, you know, not caring how it is pronounced.
Mm.
Thank you, beautiful
Thank you.
Inaya. Thank you, my beautiful
Thank you.
listeners. I will be with you next week. Bye.